The next task here we have under the process domain is to plan and manage budget and resources. Planning and managing budget and resources is critical responsibility for project managers. The PMP exam evaluates your ability to estimate, monitor, and adjust the budget while efficiently managing the project resources to achieve the project objectives. This task involves proactive planning, ongoing assessment, and adaptability to changing project conditions. The first key enabler here we have is to estimate the budgetary needs based on the scope of the project and lessons learned from the past projects. And the exam questions may test your ability to estimate the project budget using techniques such as the analogous estimating by using data from similar past projects to predict the costs. And if you recall that we say that this, let's say, technique is the least accurate estimate. Also, you have the next technique, which is bottom-up estimating by breaking down the project into smaller tasks and estimating the costs for each, which is the highest accurate um, uh, technique to when doing an estimation. And the third technique we say that is the parametric estimating. Parametric estimating is applying the statistical relationship to project variables. And the correct answers to such questions that might test your ability to identify which tool to apply or which technique to use or how to use them or what are their benefit, what are their, let's say, limitations. So the correct answers will emphasizes aligning the budget estimate with the project scope, schedule, and quality requirements while leveraging organizational processes, the process assets or the OPAs like the lessons learned repositories to complete your estimation say task. The next key enabler here we have is to anticipate future budget challenges. Scenarios might involve recognizing potential risks that could affect the budget, such as the inflation or resource shortages or scope changes. Effective answers here to will demonstrate the foresight by incorporating contingency reserves, using risk adjustment estimate, and preparing for potential variances. The next key enabler here we have is monitor the budget variation, the variations, and work with governance process to adjust as necessary. The PMP exam here may present scenario questions on tracking budget performance using tools like the earned value management or the AVM. If you recall the metrics like the cost performance index, the CPI, and schedule performance index, which is the SPI, to help you assess the project health. Also, the next tool you have here is the variance analysis. Variance analysis is by conducting it by identifying and analyzing the deviations from the baseline. The correct responses to such questions that involve, having the tracking the budget or the schedule performance will emphasize the importance of regular reviews involving stakeholders and following a governance procedures to address the discrepancies by applying, for example, the change requests or rebaseline. Next key enabler here we have is plan and manage resources. And this involves aligning the human, material, and financial resources with the project needs. The PMP questions might require you to use resource leveling or resource smoothing to manage the workload. Also, developing a resource management plan with detailed roles, responsibility, and resource allocation. You need if you recall that we have covered what is the resource leveling, what are the limitation, what are the let's say the advantages and disadvantages of the resource leveling and resource smoothing. You might also recall when we developed the resource management plan, we covered what exactly it has to have We mentioned the roles, the responsibility, and the resource allocation for each of the project activities. Also ensure the resources are allocated efficiently while maintaining the team productivity and morals. When answering questions about the budget and resource management, focus on balancing accuracy in planning with adaptability in execution. Highlight the tools and techniques such as the AVM, contingency planning, and stakeholder collaboration to manage the budgetary and resource related challenges effectively. Now it's time to discuss the sixth task as part of the process domain. Planning and managing the schedule. So, effective schedule management ensures that the project milestones are achieved on time while aligning with the organizational goals. The PMP exam evaluates your ability to estimate, prepare, and manage the schedules using an appropriate methodologies and tools. This requires a balance of technical knowledge, historical insights, and adaptability to project dynamics. The first, let's say, key enabler here we have is to estimate project tasks, such as the milestones, dependencies, and story points in case of that you are running on agile project. The questions here might require you to estimate the task duration, milestones, and dependencies using techniques like the critical path method, CPM, which we covered during the monitoring and controlling process group, by identifying the sequence of tasks that determine the project duration or cost. Also, the technique of estimating the story points, estimating effort in agile project based on the complexity or size and risks. Also, if you recall when we talked about the 3 point estimating, using the optimistic, pessimistic, and the most likely estimate to improve the accuracy. Your answers to such questions should highlight the importance of collaboration with the team and subject matter expert for your realistic estimate. The second key enabler here we have when estimating the project tasks is to utilize the benchmark and historical data. You might have scenarios where historical project data or industry benchmark marks are used to inform the scheduling decisions. The correct responses to such questions emphasize leveraging the organizational process assets such as the lessons learned and past project records to help you establishing a realistic timelines and identify potential risks. The third key enabler here we have is to prepare schedule based on methodology. AP exam may assess your ability to create schedules tailored project methodologies such as predictive and agile. And we talked about predictive. We say that how we can develop, let's say, the schedule using Gantt chart or timelines of the project. On the other hand, you have agile project when we developed an iterative sprint plans or release calendars. Also, let's not forget the hybrid approach. And hybrid approach, it works by combining elements of both predictive and agile methodologies to fit the project needs. My questions that test your knowledge of scheduling tools like the Microsoft Project or Jira or Primavera. The next key enabler here we have is to measure the ongoing progress based on methodology. You need to understand how to track the progress effectively using metrics and tools appropriate for the chosen methodology, such as we talked about the earned value management or the AVM, which is monitoring the planned versus actual progress in predictive projects. On the other hand, you have the burn down charts, which helps you tracking the work remaining in agile projects. Your answers to these questions should emphasize continuous monitoring and stakeholder communication to address variances promptly. The fifth key enabler here we have is to modify the schedule as needed based on methodology. You might face some scenarios at your PMP exam which involve adapting schedules and responses to change in scope, sources, also the availability, or let's say, or external factors. The correct answers should demonstrate the flexibility, utilizing the change control process and tools like the schedule compression, such as crashing, fast tracking, which we already covered when we said when we are monitoring the schedule performance, also to address the delays without compromising the project quality. The final key enabler here we have is to coordinate with other projects and other operations. The exam may present questions about managing the interdependencies with other projects and operational activities. With effective responses include conducting an integrated planning across projects or using resource allocation techniques to avoid the conflicts, as well as communicating regularly with the stakeholders to ensure the alignment. The final tip here for this task is expect some PMP exam questions on schedule management, which often involve analyzing scenarios with constraints or unexpected changes. Focus on applying PMI recommended tools and techniques to estimate and monitor and adjust the schedules efficiently while maintaining the alignment with the project goals.